Let's talk about money. Yeah, many of you are probably interested in knowing about money and knowing what to bring. When traveling, it's best to have more than one way to access money. Yeah. When I travel, I like to access my money in three different ways. I like to have some cash money from the country I'm going to so that I can just pay for things with cash if I need to, especially smaller things. Yeah. And then also I like to have a debit card so that my debit card can work in that country. And then I also like to have a credit card that I can use also. So for me, myself, I like to have three different ways that I can access the money. There used to be a thing in the past called a traveler's check, and people would use them. Then you could sometimes go to the bank or the bank office for the traveler's check, and you can cash the traveler's check. But I tend not to think anyone uses them anymore, so I don't really recommend that as a system for your money. Yeah. Some things about cash. So, Scotland is on the British pound. This is when I got money, I was not able. Actually, there's two kinds of money you can spend in Scotland because they're really on the British pound. So there are banknotes. These are from England. So banknotes from England work. So if it says Bank of England on it, that works in Scotland as well as in England. Yeah. And some places in the UK, like Ireland, is actually on the euro. So that is a different kind of money that we'll have. But Scotland uses British pounds or Scottish pounds. So when you transfer the money, you can ask for money for Scotland, and they might give you one or the other depending on what they have. So you can see that I have British pounds. It's got a picture of the former queen on it. It's got pictures of other people on the back of it. One thing to know about money, and it's a psychological thing, is that usually when you spend cash money, you spend less because you somehow feel what you're spending, whereas a debit card or a credit card, you sometimes spend more. So that's a psychological thing to know. The other thing about international money, we sometimes I look at this money almost like a little bit like monopoly money because it doesn't look like the money that I'm used to. So sometimes you have to be a little careful that you're just not spending more money than you think you're spending. So keeping within whatever your budget is. Yeah. And that's a thing when you travel on tour, different people have different budgets, and it's you have to know what's needed for you, and you need to sort of manage your money the way you need to manage your money. Yeah. Now, the currency, the exchange rate, it's about 129 right now. It's been fluctuating between 129 and 132 recently between what a single pound and what a dollar is. So what does that translate to? Kind of like, I guess you can think of it this way. If you spent £5, here's a £5 note. If I spent this at Starbucks, I'm actually spending kind of like about $6 or $7-ish dollars. So you would take this 5 and multiply it by 1.29. Which is the exchange rate, to know the difference. There are apps on your phone that can also make the currency exchange rates so that you know. After a while, you're going to kind of know what that is, but just know it's not a 1-to-1. So this 5 is worth more. This £5 or £5 is worth more than just $5. Yeah. £10 is, you can do the conversion rate, but you're looking at, $12 to $13. So you can do the math. And again, it's kind of a math thing. Actually, the exchange rate is better than when we've been there in the past. Brexit has really affected the British economy. So when we were there last time, I think it was 1 to 175. So it was you were almost moving to a 2-to-1. So every pound was worth $2, which was really difficult for us. So now you can thank Brexit, perhaps, that things are a little better for your American US dollars. The thing about how do you get this money? How do you exchange money? I find that the best thing to do is to exchange the money in Las Vegas. There's a place on Convention Center called the Foreign Money Exchange. Yeah, I have used them probably since I've started traveling internationally in the 90s. They've been there. I find that by far they have the best exchange rate. Now, what does that mean? When people exchange US dollars for a foreign currency, there usually is some bit of the money that they hold back to make the exchange. Some transaction fee, sometimes it's called a commission, sometimes it's an exchange rate. This place on Convention Center, what they say is they don't have a fee, but what I find is that they have a little bit, the exchange rate that they give you is a little bit less. Yeah. So sometimes I find the worst places to exchange money are places like the airport. So, and sometimes those places, those little places on the street that is a foreign money exchange, that's their business, is like, how can I make money exchanging somebody's money from one currency to the other? So what happens, I find that some places like the airport, it can be up to like 10% that they take. So that if you were changing $100, it might be only 90 that you get of the other currency. And it's sometimes very difficult to tell like how much did they take because they're converting it to different money. So they'll just tell you, oh yeah, this is what you'll get. This is what the currency exchange rate is. Sometimes there'll be a commission fee. So it's a little difficult, but I always suggest to you, you can text me and ask me about it more, but the foreign money exchange on Convention Center is the best place to go and do that and exchange the money. The one thing that I'll suggest to this group though is you need to call them. You need to call them with enough time and say, I'm interested in exchanging this much currency. So if it's 500, if it's 1,000, whatever your amount is, you need to know this is how much I'm going to convert and carry with me over there to England, to let them know so that they can order the money if they need to order the money. Yeah. Otherwise, if all of our group goes down there on the day before we leave on July 30th or 31st, they won't have it. Yeah. And then you'll just be on your own to find it. Some people will exchange it at the airport. Some people will go to a bank and exchange it. You can ask your bank if they can get you Scottish pounds or British pounds, but I find that most banks don't do that. But you can go ahead and ask. Those are great things for you to investigate on your own. Yeah. Another thing to know about money in Scotland, there's quite a few coins. Yeah. So I often think it's good to pack a coin purse. So something with a zipper that you can put all of your pounds. There are dollar pound coins. There are $2 2-pound coins also. So it always surprises me how many coins I'm ending up with. And sometimes like in the US, we think, oh, the coins are, it doesn't matter that much. I don't have that much money. But over there, you actually do have money in coins. So a coin purse is good. And then also I find that if I'm talking to someone or if I'm in line, which is a queue. If I'm in the queue and I'm paying for a Starbucks and I have the coins, sometimes it's good just to open your hands if you have trouble counting the coins and let them pick out the coins and pay for it. Usually that's the nicest thing to do because then you're not holding somebody up, because it'll take you a little while you get over there to say, how much is this coin worth? How much is this coin worth? Because you don't know, it's not your currency. Yeah. Debit cards. Yeah, it's a good idea when you travel. If you flip your card over, you will look at that there is a number on the back of your card to call if there's the customer service number. Yeah. It's usually good with your debit cards and your credit cards to call those numbers and let them know between this date and this date, I am traveling internationally. Yeah. So oftentimes they'll put a note on your account. Yeah. And then if anything, any charge comes up that they're suddenly like, why is there a charge from Scotland suddenly? Or you're using the card in Scotland, they'll know that you're traveling there. So they won't question it as much, or they won't freeze the account. That's happened before when people have traveled. So it's usually good to just take a few minutes, call those numbers, let them know that with fast. And then also my advice about debit cards. It's usually good to get money during the day, and it's good to get money at a bank with open hours. And why I say that is we've had instances in the past where people have put their card into a machine that wasn't attached to a bank, or the bank was closed and the machine ate the card. Somehow it kept the card and then the person was without their card. So it's usually good to do that where you can go in and you can talk to a person and say, the machine took my card, and then you can get the card back if that's a problem. Yeah. We've had people that have been without credit cards in the past because somehow they put it into a machine and the machine was just somewhere out on the street and there was no one to talk to. Yeah. And all they could do is call their bank, and their bank just usually canceled the card. Yeah. And said, let's send you another one. But then the question is, will the other one get to you in time? How quickly can that happen? So it's always good to do it at a bank where there's someone to talk to. Using your credit card, yeah, when you make charges on your credit card. So you really should check with your credit card company to see if they're going to charge you for using the card internationally. Yeah. So sometimes banks, what they will do is if you use the card out of the country, they will attach an international transaction banking fee. And that's usually because somebody has to go in there and manually convert this amount of US dollars for British pounds to US dollars. So they have to make the conversion. It's a manual thing, so that they usually charge you to do that. Some of your banks, like I have a couple credit cards. One of my credit cards allows me to use it internationally, doesn't charge me. Yeah. Another credit card does charge me. So then I know which card I want to use when I travel. Yeah. So always good to know. You don't want to come back from Scotland with unexpected charges and having spent more money than you thought you spent. Yeah. Some things, money, tipping. Yeah, tipping in Scotland. So you can look it up online. The things that I find, tips are kind of customary, they're less. So most of the time at dinners, people will tip 10 to 15% in Scotland and in the UK. Yeah, so that's the kind of standard thing. If you're taking a taxi, what people often do is round it up to the nearest pound, so that any of the extra change, they just give that to the taxi person. Yeah, tips are less common in Scotland, but they're becoming more and more common, than when we went 20 years ago. I think 20 years ago, their tipping was not really a standard thing, but now there's more. Another thing to know is sometimes there's a difference in price, whether you are getting something to go or whether you're getting something to stay. Yeah, so if you're eating in a restaurant, sometimes the price is more than if you're taking it to go. Yeah, so those are the things that you'll kind of navigate as you go.